The following is presented by Elizabeth N. From January 1st to March 20th, 2015, 178 people from the United States were reported to have the measles. 74% of these cases were a result from an outbreak in Disneyland. There has been a lot of debate over the MMR vaccine and whether or not we should still be vaccinating children. On one side, people are concerned with the safety of vaccines. On the other side, people are concerned with the measles disease itself. Measles usually start off with a high fever that lasts several days. Then a rash spreads across the body. In serious cases, measles can lead to blindness, deafness, brain damage, retardation, and death. Vaccines aren't as scary as people may think. On average, there are 450 children injured from vaccines a year. There are 5,400 children injured from playing outside, 34,071 children injured from walking, and a staggering 198,807 children injured from car accidents every year. And that is just injuries. There are only 450 injuries from vaccines compared with 145,700 deaths from the measles in 2013. Because of the measles vaccine, 15.6 million deaths have been prevented. The following is presented by JiaJia S.
Functionalism theory states that social institutions are interconnected as to create stability and control in society, and that deviance is functional as a form of social adaptation for individuals. So the negative inference of deviant behavior sees positive benefits for society. Why? Because some deviance will be used to point out the ideas of right or wrong in society, and as a consequence, the so-called rule-breaking behavior creates social agreement and cohesion regarding acceptable behaviors. So the functionalism see anti-vaccine movement as an integral part of the whole society. The existence of this movement bring about increasing public awareness of goods and bads for vaccination. If we look back in time, since 1983, when MMR immunization program was introduced for all infants, parents had become so used to vaccination their child that they lost track of their motives. And then the anti-vax supporters came along and asked, why do we still need MMR immunization if the outbreak hasn't occurred domestically for a long time? And they questioned the side effect of vaccination that may cause autism. So not until then, officials, doctors, and scientists, interested parties, vaccine supporters look back to for what mass liberty was and how the current mass situation, national and international wide, and if we're still benefiting from vaccination. Because of this deviant act, there are no more scientific research conducted, more academic finding published, and more public awareness. The general public are more supportive for MMR immunization because they're more aware about the fact that there's still decent chances of getting infected by traveling abroad to another country. And in the cases of a virus outbreak, the unprotected children may get seriously infected, and the disease could cause permanent brain damage or even death. And the scientists have proven the complete irrelevance regards to vaccine and autism. So, as Durkheim would say, the deviance play a constructive role in society through its bond foregoing influence among non-deviant populations. If the collective conscience was so strong that no one would imagine violating the basic norm, change would be impossible and society won't be able to adapt to the new challenges.
The following is presented by Alina B.
The conflict theory states that power, not functional interdependence, holds a society together. In regards to the editorial, because the author is warning of the effects that measles can have on unvaccinated individuals, a conflict theorist would agree that power is taken away from those who cannot vaccinate by those who choose not to vaccinate. Conflict theorists argue that people that have the choice to take advantage of the medical system as it is use it to gain favor for their positions, whereas the people who are not able to vaccinate are fighting to gain more power than they have. Society tends to favor and benefit the powerful while disregarding the weak. Those who voice their opinions loudly against vaccinations tend to be in positions of influential power. In the fight against vaccinations, certain celebrities have vocalized their opposition to vaccinations and have influenced a large amount of people, but are not experts in the field of medicine and communicable diseases. Conflict theorists argue that one of the major sources of conflict is inequality. Groups act competitively against each other rather than acting cooperatively with each other. Those who do not vaccinate are choosing to ignore individuals who they hurt by their choice. While this may not be a conscious choice, as ultimately they are doing what they consider to be best for their family, they are, as a result, acting against society rather than with it. Furthermore, there is also inequality in the capitalism of healthcare. In the book, The Basics of Sociology, the author relates the AIDS crisis, another communicable disease, to conflict theorists and states that the inequality lies in the fact that there are so many uninsured individuals who also lack access to physicians. During the AIDS crisis, many were left without access to healthcare due to the stigma and unequal distribution of healthcare for a disease that affected predominantly homosexual men, those who held the least amount of power. As in the AIDS example, those who were affected by the lack of vaccinated individuals around them may not have access to readily available healthcare due to having an unequal distribution of power, and rely on herd immunity to protect them. Therefore, if less individuals are vaccinated, herd immunity is compromised. At no point would a conflict theorist disagree with the editorial, as it clearly states that those working against vaccinations are conflicting with society, though it can be argued that the act of acting competitively against society is what drives societal change in the first place. However, in this case, it will not be for the better.
The following is presented by Samantha H.
Symbolic interactionism is defined as the microsociological perspective that assumes that individuals act and interact on a basis of symbolically encoded information. A microsociologist perspective is the analysis of an individual and their interactions on a smaller scale. Symbolic interactionism theorists often associate an individual's behavior with its symbolic meaning instead of relating their behavior with its literal consequences. For example, if two people look outside and see a rainstorm, they may have two completely different reactions. One individual may see in the rain and be happy as it means they can curl up in bed with a good book. The other individual may have a different reaction and be sad as they know they have to drive in horrible weather conditions. The rain in this case is perceived in two completely different ways. Symbolic interaction theorists believe that humans think and interact on the basis of information as a string of symbols, such as language or objects themselves. In the case of this editorial, it depends on the way the population views measles and vaccinations. To the general population, diseases are considered negative and the solution to the problem, vaccines, are considered to be positive. The symbolic interaction theorists would agree with the statement in this editorial, stating that children should be vaccinated in order to stop the spread of measles. The measles vaccination was developed in 1963 to ensure that the elimination of this disease from our society was kept, and since then has been accepted by the Canadian population. Doctors and medical professionals are advising parents to vaccinate their children, and this editorial supports this view, as G.H. Mead's idea that people are influenced by significant others. Doctors play the role of significant others as their opinions and advice affect individuals' lives. However, symbolic interaction theorists could also disagree with this editorial based on the fact that people who have been vaccinated could be given different privileges than those who have not. By offering different treatments and support, that those who have vaccine would be unreasonable for a symbolic interaction theorist.
The following is presented by Elizabeth N. In the article, Time to Needle Measles Weasels, the author is obviously biased towards the pro-vaccination argument. The author does not consider the anti-vaccination side of the argument, and when he does reference it, he states that it is sadly gaining sympathetic ears. The author also uses the strawman fallacy in his argument. The strawman fallacy consists of misrepresenting an opponent's claim or argument so that it is easier to criticize. The author misrepresented the vaccine argument when he compared it with peanut allergies. If school boards and parents can agree to remove peanuts from a classroom to protect a couple of children, we can certainly agree to vaccinate children to protect everyone. The argument to be rid of nuts from a classroom is a much smaller scale than the vaccination debate. There's really only one reason someone would bring nuts to school, whereas there are multiple reasons why someone would choose not to vaccinate. The author fails to take into account why people are choosing not to vaccinate.